Hi and welcome to the Libra Full Moon update. The full moon is happening on the 1st of April at 7:12 p.m. Pacific time. So it may be happening on the 2nd of April for you, depending on where you are in the world. So just check that. But either way, a full moon is always a time of completion. It is when the moon is the biggest and the brightest in the night sky, and it shines a light on also what we have accomplished up to that point. Very often it's a time of completion, for example, a project, or maybe it just brings up a area of your life into more focus where you need to still put in some more work, or something comes up where you realize this isn't truly working. Very often the full moon just makes things more visible that have been in the shadow before. And with all that said, very often full moons, because of that, are a more emotional time. And this is especially true for you if the full moon falls, meaning aspects or triggers certain angles or planets in your personal birth chart. So let's get into this chart. First of all, please ignore the houses on this chart. This is set up for Las Vegas, where I'm currently at, but it will be different depending on where you're at in the world. And just look at the planets and the relationship to each other. And then if I talk about the different signs, know that it doesn't necessarily have to do with your sun sign. It doesn't necessarily have to do with how you play it out. It's just kind of talking about the energy in general. So let's talk about Libra. This is a Libra full moon, and Libra is cardinal air. It is a starting sign, and it's a very social sign, being an air sign. It's a more intellectual sign. And Libra is ruled by Venus, so all the things that we associate with Venus also have to do with Libra. So beauty, harmony, peacemaking, that's very much connected to Libra. But also the arts and culture and, just elegance and grace are all connected to Libra. Libra as a sign is very often connected to relationships and to love, and just how we relate to others. And very often Libra can be the peacemaker, maybe in the family, or just wanting to create that harmony and peace. And even in art, very often art has to do with the relationship to different forms and structures, and so it all ends up being beautiful in the end, and that's very much a Libra thing. Sometimes Libra doesn't like confrontation much because it's so very much oriented towards finding harmony, and it can just try to smooth over things where a deeper conversation would be necessary, or even an argument might come up. And this is where it's much more in contrast to its opposite sign, Aries. So while Libra is very much about what do you want, Aries is very more concentrated on this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, and I actually can do it on my own, no problem. And so Aries is very pioneering, it's very direct, it's very courageous, and it's much more decisive than Libra. Sometimes Libra has a tendency to ask everyone, what do you think? What should I do? Aries, not so much. And so with this full moon, there is a call to action towards balance between what do I want and what's good for both of us. And if we look further down the line, and even just in this chart already, you see that it's this single Libra moon standing against all these Aries planets. So Aries is very much being activated at this time, especially as we progress more into the month of April. And it maybe is also a reminder that we don't have to do everything on our own, that we can count on the people around us, but still we will have to make a decision, and we have to keep going with our projects that we're wanting to bring forward at this time. So let's check this chart a little bit more in detail. So let's start with the ruler of this full moon, which is Venus. And Venus is in the sign of Taurus. So Venus likes being in Taurus. It is, Taurus is also connected to Venus, and where Libra is more about the art and beauty in a more cultured, more kind of like city, kind of museum sort of way. The beauty that comes through Taurus is more connected to the earth, to nature's beauty, like the beginning of spring and all the flowers coming up and the abundance of the green that we're going to see now. Or also the luxuries that we allow ourselves to have in our lives, whether that's high quality fabric, materials and clothes, and gemstones, really good food, all that sort of luxurious, high quality stuff is very connected to Taurus. And the tarot card, if you know tarot, that's very connected to this kind of energy is probably the Empress sign. So if you've ever seen that, that would be a great way of connecting the puzzle. It's a earth sort of goddess in its full abundance. And if we go a little bit deeper with that theme, I do feel like abundance might be a theme around this full moon. So Taurus has to do with money, and so does Venus. And the full moon is square to Jupiter, which is the sign of expansion, the planet of expansion, and of abundance as well. Now, Jupiter in Cancer it wants to feel safe, it wants to feel nurtured, and it wants to nurture, our loved ones, our family, our private life. And if there's a square aspect, it can feel like a challenge, like that's maybe not a given at this time. And it might be connected to our sense of abundance, that we're feeling a little squeezed. And the squeezed part I see with Venus being again in a challenging square aspect to Pluto in Aquarius. And that's actually, sometimes it can express as a lot of wealth, or it can feel like, there's some intensity around the themes of money, and maybe we're feeling like there's not quite enough, for example. And if we're talking about disruptions in the financial world, not just our private life, but all, collectively, Uranus in Taurus towards the end of Taurus, which sometimes can express more in a shadowy expression, it does bring disruptions in the financial market. However, it flows in a more positive aspect to Pluto and also to Saturn, where we're building new structures. So I'd say even if there might be themes of money coming up around this time, check in with, your intuition. And I'm saying that because Jupiter is in trine to Mercury, and there might be more abundance coming in ways that are unexpected, or by you building something very new. These are all expressions that may come up around this time. And the last thing that I find important here to point out is that we have a yacht aspect pointing to the South Node. So if that goes too much into details for you about astrology, don't worry about it. But basically, so Saturn and Pluto are in a quincunx both to the South Node. And again, it's a bit more of a challenging aspect that requires us, in this case, to let go of worrying, for example, of wanting to control things. But there's definitely a purging that's necessary to be able to make space for that new that we're building. And that purging is represented by the South Node. What could that purging be about? Well, probably the worrying, the wanting to control, the needing to know every little detail that can be associated with Virgo. That's what we're letting go of. And most likely, this is when more abundance will come in for us in the long term. So, to summarize this whole chart now, the thing that is important to remember is, yes, we're building something new. Maybe there is some challenges in abundance and our ability to think bigger, because Jupiter is big thinking as well, But once we let go of worrying, once we let go of control, we'll be able to see the new that comes up, and we'll be able to use it in a constructive way. With, Saturn in Aries building something new, with in a realistic, pragmatic way, and Pluto bringing deep change here as well. And then the last thing is, and maybe even most important thing and most obvious thing about this new moon, full moon, is that we don't have to do it ourselves. Libra is a social sign. It is connected to our relationships. And, you can build on the people that you love that are in your life, hopefully. And if not, then it's a wake-up call to maybe see if some of those relationships need some changes, yes. But if that's the case, I do think that talking about stuff around the full moon will be a good time, because the ruler of Aries is Mars, and Mars is in Pisces, so we'll have a more gentle approach. And then again, Mercury also in Pisces, a more gentle, compassionate, and intuitive approach will definitely help to clear any air if something comes up around this time. All right, so that is the most important thing that I wanted to point out about this full moon. Now let's look at the different houses and see what this could mean for you. Now, the full moon is always a point of completion. Like I said, something comes to an end sometimes, and in regards to that, it is good to think about the last new moon that we had in October in the sign of Libra as well. Now that was at a different degree. I believe it was around 28 degrees, while this one is at 12 degrees of Libra, so it may not be in the same house for you. But similar themes might still be present, and it's still good to see if the intentions that you set around that time, and it may well be about relationship or anything else, how they have grown so far, and what has come to a completion, what has worked and what's not working quite as well. Now, if this Libra full moon falls into your first house, meaning 12 degrees of Libra happens to be in your first house, then this is a question about your identity and your self-image. And you can see how far have you come to be comfortable in your own skin and who you are. How much do other people play a role in how you perceive yourself or present yourself? And, how much does your partner, for example, define your identity? And it may be an invitation, if necessary, to step more into just a feeling of, this is who I am and this is what I want. And be able to go with, a bit more confidence into these new things that you want to do, or the way that you just want to show up in life in general. If this falls into your second house of money, resources, and self-worth, then everything I talked about regarding abundance might be a theme for you. And it might be a good time for you to just kind of see how far you've come and be grateful for how far you've come with how you're able to provide for yourself, and just sort of like check in on whether the ability of, making an income has a big impact on your self-worth, and if so, if you can find a new relationship to your worth that is completely independent from what you make. And then also maybe see if your income, your money, is very much related to relationships to other people, and how much they have impact on that, and how much that works for you and maybe what doesn't. With the third house, we are talking about your voice, your thinking, your mind, but also neighborhoods or siblings. So if this full moon falls into this house, see what comes to a completion in this area of life. But it could be something as how far have you come in speaking up for yourself, in expressing yourself confidently and saying what you need. And you might be very much able to say things in a very beautiful way. Just make sure you're not holding yourself back, and in the name for peace, or in the name for just keeping things not messy. So, allow yourself to say what you need to say. The fourth house has to do with your home, your roots, your upbringing. So what is coming to fruition in your more private life and your family life. Your private life, family life might look very different to other people's, and that's completely okay. So, it doesn't have to be the traditional family, that's what I'm saying. But your home needs to feel like a beautiful place where you can relax, and that brings you joy, and probably has some sort of, maybe some art there, some beauty in there. And it should probably feel harmonious. And you may want to see if you're playing the peacemaker in your life at home, in private, and if that is working out for you, or if you need to change some things up with that as well. The fifth house has to do with your self-expression, your joy with children, with creative projects. So anything around these themes. Maybe you are finishing a creative project, or you're just finding more time to express yourself creatively. That would be a very beautiful thing for you to do. Maybe there's something happening with your relationship to kids, if you're working with kids or you have kids. And as always with Libra, see if there's any people-pleasing tendencies in that regards, if the need to be liked is stronger than your ability to just express yourself creatively for who you are without getting worried about being judged, for example. Then we have the sixth house, which has to do with our daily routines, with our work environment and the work that we do, and our health often too. So how far have you come in creating beautiful routine for yourself? Check if there's time for relaxation during your days, and see if there's any people-pleasing tendencies happening in your work environment, where maybe you're being too much accommodating to your colleagues, for example. You may want to just restore some balance in your personal day-to-day life, but also in your work life. Now, the seventh house is to do with relationships, and that doesn't just have to do with your romantic relationships, but also with your business relationships or close friendship relationships. And so how far have you come in creating a good balance between what do I want, what do you want, what do we share, what works for us, and how much has that grown you as a person with maybe what's expired since October. Do things feel fair? That's a very important point here. And in the eighth house, we go a little deeper here. That's our shared money, that's our intimacy, that's our deep spiritual, psychological work, where we are dealing with our shadows, and that's things that are a little bit more private. And so how far have you come in this regard? And Libra there, sometimes maybe we want to avoid messy conversations or really going into our uglier parts. And so this is very much an invitation to do it with grace, have those deep conversations with yourself or with someone else with love and compassion, but don't be scared to go deep. And then the ninth house is a very expansive house. It has to do with the mind, with travel, with philosophy, the higher mind. And here, maybe there's a completion in education program that you've completed, or maybe you've moved abroad somewhere else. And just see how if in these themes, whether that's your education, whether that's traveling, relationships have played a big part, for example, or if you're allowing yourself to do what you want to do, or what relationships do other people have in making those decisions for yourself, as in how you grow as a person. And then we have the 10th house. That is very much about your career, your social status, your legacy that you're building in the world. And there we're looking at your work, your career, how people see you. Are you, how far have you come in what you wanted to achieve in this regards? And maybe are you too accommodating at times towards, let's say, your coworker or your client? And can you stand up for yourself? There might be a need for balance. With Libra in the 10th house, you may have a talent for anything that's connected to Libra, whether that's arts or that's even law. So just see if anything comes up around these themes as well. And then also, last thing, whether it's your 10th house or your 4th house, in fact, we talk about a work-life balance. Does it feel like you're spending way too much time at work, or you're not spending enough work? So just finding that balance, really. Then we have the 11th house. That is our future goals, our friendships and the communities, sometimes connected to our sense of feeling if we feel lovable and accepted by the group. And with Libra there, how much have your friendships grown and changed here? And are you, involved in any sort of projects or community work that maybe has to do with these Libra themes of arts, of culture, or maybe you just love, going out with your friends and go shopping for beautiful clothes. But see if you, build these beautiful networks with your friends, and if these friends truly are the ones that are for you, this full moon might shine a light on that. And if there's any changes, maybe you're also too people-pleasing towards these maybe not so close friends as the 7th house friends, but your circles of friendships. And then we have the 12th house. So if this full moon falls in your 12th house, is a great opportunity to really listen to your dreams at night and write them out. Very often the full moon shines a bright light into this more subconscious, hidden part of our psyche that's sometimes harder to access. And so it, may be a good opportunity to get more insights into your subconscious beliefs, what may be holding you back, or what's a good way to progress. And, arts like painting and all that can be a form of therapy. So that could be a good way for you too to get into almost like a flow state, where you could get more insights about yourself as well. All right, this is all that I wanted to share about this Libra full moon. I hope you have a beautiful time. Make sure to, for a full moon, we don't necessarily need to set an intention, but it is a good time to take note, take stock of what comes up, and see if you want to release something. And with Libra full moon, it may also be time to make an important decision. See if that comes up for you today or around the full moon. Thank you very much, and see you soon.